What's up? What's up, Milwaukee and the world? Welcome to another episode of Milwaukee Treasures right here on Saved and the City TV. Oh my God, y'all get excited. Do y'all see who's sitting next to me right now? Yeah. I love it. If you don't know who he is, you don't live in the city of Milwaukee. You have seen this face somewhere out and about in the city, somewhere doing something absolutely amazing. And so I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to just stop him in the middle of all of his amazingness and just say, hey, sir, I see you doing the work. We love you here in the city of Milwaukee, and thank you for all that you do in the city. Even though you literally, he was like, I don't do nothing. I ain't nobody. So for those people... For those of you who are just joining for the first time, again, welcome. This is Milwaukee Treasures. It's a segment that I created as an extension of Saved in the City TV, Saved in the City Christian Network, where we shine light on amazing folks in the city doing the work. And that doesn't always mean it's a big name community leader. Sometimes it is. It could just be someone who lends a helping hand, someone who is there when you need them. And I appreciate that. And sometimes we have to stop the monotony of everything that we see on social media and just shine light on some positive things that's going on right here in our city. So thank you again, Harrison, for being a Milwaukee treasure, whether you think you are or not. And for those people who don't know who you are, why don't you take this opportunity just to share with people about who you are, what you do, and you've been a long time face in the city for a while.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you for believing that I'm a treasure.
Oh, absolutely.
Not that I didn't believe it.
But it's nice when other people can see it. I am.
It truly
is.
I joke a lot, and people who know me, they would say I toot my own horn, but I never take myself that seriously. Mm-hmm. But I have been a lifelong resident of the city of Milwaukee, and I have a commitment to this community. I was born and raised in Milwaukee. I've traveled all across the country, but I have a commitment here. I plan to be here.
Wow.
And I have no intention of going anywhere. And one of the challenges for me was to get people to appreciate their own Shangri-La. Far too often we are looking on the other side of the fence. We're looking at somebody else's rainbow and wondering why that's not ours, when ours is right here. There are so many wonderful things about this community that people here take for granted.
Yeah.
And when you've traveled a lot and you've done a lot and you've seen what is offered here for so little sometimes and how little people appreciate it, it sometimes, it frustrates me at times, but at the same time I enjoy it and try to let people know to get out of their own way and enjoy the city that's here. If you do comparisons, and you hear often, I had a conversation with somebody online, and I've been posting things online for about 12 years on Facebook and whatever, and I started maybe 10 or 11 years ago doing an Out About series that was featured and probably 20,000 or plus pictures on it throughout all the years. But one of the things and one of the reasons I did that is because on any given day, I could literally go to events, entertainment situations, or activities that are just not only enlightening but fun activities throughout the city that were either free or very minimally charged. And it would always bother me that people, there's nothing to do
in Milwaukee. I hate that.
If you were in the middle of New York, something is not going to be delivered to you in your house on your couch.
You gotta get out and
and
about.
see what's happening. And when you compare apples to apples, there's no place in the country like Milwaukee. There really isn't.
Wow.
People talk about Chicago, Atlanta. I've been to all those places a zillion times. And when you look at how they're comparing things, it's very interesting. Most people that I know that have moved out of the city of Milwaukee that will complain about what's happening here at any point in time, they have a small circle they roll in. But then they'll go to a place like Atlanta, but they don't live in Atlanta. They live in the suburbs of Atlanta, which would be very similar to living in Mequon and complaining about what's wrong in Milwaukee. So it's when you do the comparisons, when you speak about things, I go to Chicago pretty often, and when it costs $20 to park 3 hours on the street, and people would complain about paying $20 for a Summerfest ticket, I mean, I just draw a blank.
Exactly.
And
we can get anywhere in 15 minutes on top of that.
Anywhere. You can get off the freeway and get to where you have to go. And when you look at entertainment and activities that we have available here, during the summer, there's no comparison.
There's a plethora.
Any given day, festivals, live music, of every genre. And a lot of times we complain about not being included, but I always look at you determine how you're going to be included. If you're not out here fighting the fight, if you're not out here walking the walk, if you're not out here supporting acts that look like you, it's a problem when you complain about what isn't going on. Because we have, if you look at it from a minority perspective, in terms of population here, there's nothing that crosses the city that we can't intersect or can't be involved in and change to a way that we see fit. So I get it's a little bit of a disconnect with me when I hear too many people that look like me complaining about what isn't available here when so much of it you can control or impact. And so if you're not doing that, it's like, okay,
then what are you doing? Like it does take you to actually do something. And I was gonna say, just I've seen you, and because you were saying, it really any kind of event that you can think of, you potentially could be a part of, and you make your way to be included. Because I've seen you anywhere from the polar bear.
Absolutely, gotta do the polar bear.
To a blues festival, or in the old Northridge area. I mean, you're to a church event. I mean, you're everywhere that you want to be, and showing us and proving to us that there are things going on in the city. And I have to say this: the first time I met you was at one of my events. You showed up. I think it was at a. I want to say Times, it was either Rosebud or Times Cinema, and that was the first. And the thing is, he comes in, and he's not necessarily unannounced, but it's not bold and boastful, even though he's quite hilarious once you get to know him. It's just he comes in, and his presence is there. I think you wrote a check because I was trying to raise some money, and I was just like, who is this man? And then he just saw his way out. But it means so much beyond just, knowing that there's something to do, but it means so much when you support your own, and it means so much to us when we're supported. And so that stood out to me.
And even in that regard, one of the things that's really funny, I hear a number of artists, performing artists, and as you are a performing artist, and you would probably be able to attest to this. But when I hear a lot of artists complain about what's happening here, what is really funny to me, I know enough artists that are here that are, and they play somewhat regularly, but there are not enough artists here that are doing full-time work that if any particular artist did a show, almost in any venue in the city, it should be full to capacity with just artists supporting artists alone. So that's what really bothers me when we complain about what is or isn't going on. I mean, there are so many artists here that if they supported each other, there's not a venue out here that you wouldn't have standing room. Now, and that doesn't include their own family and friends. So we're just talking about the artists themselves. So if you can imagine, there's an artist that we both know very well, one of the biggest, who has been an artist performing with some of the biggest acts in the world. Been around the world on some of the biggest stages here. Has been a musical director for people from Mary J. Blige to Jill Scott and John Legend. And the interesting thing is, if that person came here right now and offered a show, $10 tickets, it would be hard pressed to have 50 people that look like you and I in the room. And
what is that?
So when you think about that, here you have people who are big enough to play with some of the biggest people in the entertainment industry.
And that's disheartening.
Which shows you how good they are. But yet right here in your own backyard, you don't get the support from your own. A number of years ago, when MATA first came to the Milwaukee area, I started something called BOW, and it was called the Best of Wisconsin. And the whole idea was about Wisconsin taking a bow for its contributions to the world of entertainment and everything else. We did one pilot show. The problem was having enough producers and not wanting to give control of the show up to other people. So we never kind of went forward with it, but all the research and things that went into it. And when we started looking at the number of people that are from not just the Wisconsin, but especially the southeastern Wisconsin area, in all kinds of levels of entertainment, whether you're looking at sports, whether you're looking at performance, art. But when we're looking at people and we start looking at these names, a lot of people don't realize the jewels that have been right here.
Yeah.
When you look at people, we'll have the familiar names like Al Jarreau.
Yeah,
People might know that.
Exactly.
They may know Liberace.
Yeah.
And interesting thing is Liberace was one of the highest paid entertainer in the world. And people don't realize it.
No, clueless,
A local guy. Al Jarreau made history in terms of his wins across different genres and Grammys.
Yes.
First one to do that.
Yes.
And again, how often have we praised them here?
Yeah.
We look
Eric
at
Benet.
people. Eric Benet is another one. Gene Wilder, the comedian.
Yeah.
is
Right.
And interestingly enough, one of the other ones that people, if you looked at the golden age of Hollywood, Spencer Tracy.
Oh, I had no idea.
In fact, interesting enough, not only did Spencer Tracy, is he from Milwaukee, but he was considered one of the top 10 actors of the golden era of Hollywood. His last major role was along Sidney Poitier, alongside him in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. And he passed, unfortunately, shortly thereafter.
Wow.
But again, Milwaukee's own. I mean, you've had people in sports where the Bonnie Blair, Eric Hyden, the basketball players, the Latrell Sprewells, I mean, you name it. It's just on and on and on.
Yeah.
And there are so many of these people here that it bothered me that even in Milwaukee, we have the largest musical festival in the world. Why don't we have a Milwaukee Day? Why don't we have a day, when you have people like Daryl Sturmer, who played with Genesis, one of the biggest bands in the world. He's here locally. You had Jerry Harrison, the Talking Heads, all of these people. There's so many acts right from here that you should have had a day at the festival
that's
honoring specifically Milwaukee people. And the fact that people think you have to leave here, it's funny. I'm a testament to what happened in Minneapolis. I was there so much people thought I lived there. People didn't leave Minneapolis. People came into Minneapolis. And so you had the Jam and Lewis and the Prince experience. People didn't leave Detroit. They came to Detroit. People didn't leave Atlanta. They're coming to Atlanta. So, the bottom line is you don't have to leave anywhere if you support your own and do the things that are necessary. And one of the other things is we have a lot of talent, but you have to actually realize that whatever your talent is, if you're trying to make it a business, it is still a business.
It is still a business. That's good talk.
And we forget that. So too many times we want business results, but we attack our craft like a hobby.
Yes, that's true.
You can't do both.
Yeah.
And so my message to us is we just need to do a better job in appreciating us and appreciating what is around us. I mean, we have beautiful infrastructure of a city.
And now new places, like we're down at No Studios right now.
It's beautiful, and I love this. I love where it is. I love what it's about, and it's something you all need to support. When you see No Studios, bring yourself down here. We don't want to hear no excuse.
No excuse.
Yes.
Pun intended.
Indeed. But again, as you just mentioned, John Ridley, 12 years a slave. So many people in the entertainment business here. And speaking of that, George Tillman.
Who's
another one of our Marshall High School.
Boys in the Hood.
Marshall High,
right, was his.
Good men of honor, whatever it was. There's so many. The impact of this area in the world stage has been big, and the impact in entertainment has been especially big as well. And one of the things that's kind of funny, if you look at a lot of these other regions and places, when people were doing things in Minneapolis, the city got behind them, they got behind the city. It's a reciprocal type of effect that benefits both. Can you imagine if the people that I just spoke of, the Al Jarreaus, constantly put out about Milwaukee, then people would feel better about being here and feel more, I guess, proud of our inclusion in what has happened out in the world. Even to that extent, you have the Milwaukee School of the Arts. Why don't we have a Walk of Fame? Why don't we have because that was another thing I proposed even way back then. I said, why can't we go to Milwaukee and see something with the plaques of these people and their accomplishments as you're walking in? What influences young people on the street? It could be anywhere. They did the plaques down in front of the arena with the old sports figures. But why can't you do it with people from here who have, because a lot of these sports figures, and whether they're Green Bay Packers, whoever they were, that you have, enshrined in these things, they come from everywhere else. They play for your team for 2 years and they're gone.
Yeah, they're gone.
They're not from here.
Yeah.
They're not born here. They didn't go to schools here. Yet you have people who went to schools here, walk the same blocks. Eric Belais, you're over in Burleigh, 22nd Burleigh, and Al Jarreau's over in Lincoln High School.
Exactly.
Where are the things that pay homage to these people and where they went through? Because if I'm a young person, I see this and I look at the history and I'm looking at, oh, this guy walked down the same street I did, the same blocks. That's where you develop.
And I don't feel like I
inspiration.
have to leave.
Absolutely.
To be something.
And
amazing.
you change that whole concept. And if you did that, and it's something that I think I'm kind of working on in the background even right now, to look at a location in Milwaukee that would be good.
Yeah,
to do.
well,
There's
let
a
me
few
know how
places
I can support. I'm so
because
here
that
for it.
really needs to happen. It really needs to happen because we need to change the dialogue, and we need to, I mean, you can leave for a lot of reasons, like weather sometimes.
Well, I get that now.
Sometimes. But to me, that's the
winter.
only reason.
Yeah.
Because I can't control that. But
Yeah.
I can stay in the house.
That's true.
but
Get
sometimes
out
you
and
don't want to
about.
stay in the house.
Yeah.
But outside of that, there is so much that can be done here. And it's just a change of mindset. And a change of direction. And I think we are past due for that.
Yeah.
Past due. And especially, I hate to say this, but especially people of color. Because it is what it is, but it's like a tale of two different cities. On one half of the city, you see the city bristling like it never has, and it's been rated. You look at magazines. There have been major magazines throughout the United States have rated Milwaukee as the best city in the Midwest, and people do not realize it's happened multiple times in the last few years. These are large magazines. That didn't come just by accident. It's not an accident that the DNC convention will be here next year. It's not by accident. And the sad part is too many people like I don't see that. I see it. I've seen it coming. I've seen how it's happening. And the sad part is when we have too many people complaining about what the problem is, many times we vote against our own best interests when it comes to that. When you look at the political structure here and what we keep talking about what the problem is, but what solutions are we bringing to the table? More importantly, how are we telling ourselves to be more responsible for the things we either let happen or that are occurring in our own communities? Because from when we speak about whether it's driving or crazy things that have happened over the last few years here, I don't know how many people from outside of Milwaukee are coming into the Milwaukee streets and driving like idiots. I think most of those are somebody's brother, cousin, little Ray that you know. So if you're not taking ownership and taking responsibility, how dare you complain about what's going on elsewhere?
No, you're
and
so
we
spot
continue
on.
to do that.
We continue to do that. But the thing is that just like there are those that continue to not take responsibility, there are a few that do. And so again, that's why there are platforms like Milwaukee Treasures to remind us of the folks that are doing it. They're the work that you do in front of the camera, behind the camera, outside where no one sees it. Then we have folks like the Joanne and Manansa Beer, building things like the Sherman Phoenix, and I love that
so
place. I love it.
I saw him a month ago. I did some photos.
Can you walk yet? No, poor thing.
But it was just so phenomenal because initially I didn't know that they had actually secured the building and it was their thing. And I was talking to him, and when I just kind of matter of factly said something. He says, "Oh, you know," and I'm like, "Oh my God."
Yeah, and then boom.
It was just it hit me right.
Yeah, and that's where we have to focus. For those of us that get it, that's where we have to focus. The folks that get it, because there's always gonna be people who don't, and at some point they're just either gonna have to come along for the ride with those who get it. And so, I wanted you to talk a little bit about 10. Now, what is that for people?
It's Total Entertainment Network.
Yes.
That is actually something that I've been doing over 30 years, and it was a part of an entertainment.
It's not just a party.
No, by no means. It was literally about bringing together all different forms of things. I've been a photographer professionally for a gazillion years.
Yes.
I've been involved in music in the background for a gazillion years. I've managed bands here going back to my youth. I even played. I actually can play a chord on a guitar, just a little bit. But I can't
all you need is like 2, 3.
About 2 chords, G, F, D.
There you go.
But being around in entertainment and being around in that whole genre for years is just, I find it interesting. First of all, I'm creative, and I love being around creative people, which is really cool. But it also is something that expands the way you think about other things. So it's always been something that's interesting to me. And so I've had experiences in that, and a lot of my travels throughout the country were in either supportive roles or roles doing things whether it be video or photos for people who are out there. In fact, some very big names. But it's something that I just enjoy doing. I really wanted to do more of branding it as an ongoing business. But like so many other people have problems with business, the business is getting support that is consistent with what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So sometimes rather than go full force with something halfway, I would just shelve it until I can do it the way it needs to be done.
No, I get it.
So you'll probably hear a lot more about 10 and that moniker out here over the next few years. Because it is something, in fact, as we were talking about, the Walk of Fame and things like that, that's where you'll probably hear.
Yeah, and I kind of like that, even like kind of creating a, like you were saying, where if artists could support artists, you know, if they're, you know, maybe there's a roster and we know, okay, this is where we're going today, you know, so.
Well, and when you think about it, it's funny too, that for 10 years I've been posting these things and these out and abouts, and then I'll still get a call and somebody will call me, Harrison, what's going on tonight? I said, well, have you been looking for the last 10 years?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, for the last 10 years I've been posting about Mason Street Grill. You know, they have music, live music every night, but Sunday night.
People want that hand-holding
so do I have to come and, you know, give you your platter and put it in your morning with your coffee and say,
we gotta do better, y'all.
Yeah, and it's like, at what point in time do we get up and make any initiative at all? If somebody's been telling you about a particular place for this long, then contact the place.
Contact the place.
You know, contact the band. Once you know, quit waiting for somebody to give you something, and we have that bad.
That is a good word for somebody.
and it's interesting too when you think of this too. I have been. And I want to go back to something involving, you know, Summerfest, because Summerfest has been frustrating, and as much as I've been a participant since I was 12 years old, I've been going down to Summerfest since I was 12 religiously.
Wow.
And
he doesn't age, just so you know.
I'm a day older today than I was yesterday.
Yeah.
But I've been going down there for years, and over the years, I've seen it become less and less organic. And that frustration was borne out by one of our local artists here recently in a post that was very pointed. And even though I understand it, the post, in my opinion, was totally inaccurate. And a part of it is because, again, you have to be involved in your own progress.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way that you have to be involved in all the steps of it.
Make your
way. You have to be involved in your own promotion. You have to be involved in your own securing the bag, so to speak. But at the same time, if you look at this community, and if you look at something that the city supports through tax dollars, you know, Summerfest is literally a city-owned property that we basically give for like little or nothing to produce this festival. So in my opinion, during Summerfest, it should represent this community, period. Now, as we know, the city is very eclectic, and it has a number of minority participants in the city, Latino, Blacks, among, and when you look at that in terms of population, and then you go to this festival, it is nowhere near representative of what this community is. And that bothers me, and it bothers me for a lot of reasons. You have different ethnic festivals throughout, you know, the summer that celebrate different ethnicities, and that's wonderful. It should happen. But at the same time, if Summerfest is something that embodies what this area is,
it should be
far more inclusive than it is. So then the question is, why aren't we doing more politically to put the pressure to make sure they get the message? It's one thing to stay at home and complain about what's not down there, but again, if I happen to be a country music fan, which I actually am at times, but if I was a fan of a particular genre of music and I'm doing a festival where I'm controlling it, I'm gonna do what I wanna do. Now, is that wrong in me? Is it biased? Not necessarily. It's just my particular taste. But if somebody else isn't pulling my coattails, say, well, wait, you need to include this in it. Maybe the way I look at things is not as broad. Maybe I'm just doing it from a manager perspective. But then I look at the acts I like, and I bring all my acts. Now, if I haven't been across the block and don't know who's playing
who else is there,
I'm still going to bring my act. So if somebody is not pulling my coattails, and or if I'm refusing to hear, somebody's not dragging me, because there's two sides of it. And there's one that you may not know. You may actually just be doing what's in your wheelhouse. At the other point, if somebody makes it known and you refuse to act on it, then you have to have constructive ways of dealing with that person and dealing with the entity that allows that to happen. And that is our responsibility. I remember I was at and this is interesting. It was a former alderman, friend of mine, that 9 years ago, I think it was about 10 years ago, the NAACP convention was in the city. It was the 96th year of that convention. It was here for the first time in the history of that convention. They had known that convention was coming here for over 2.5 years. And at that time, Summerfest had had the same date since its inception. So it was always the last Thursday in July, in June, and it would end the Sunday following the 4th of July.
Oh, okay.
So that's how it was until they, stopped one day in the middle a few years ago. But anyway, so we've known the festival schedule for years. You had a convention coming here for the first time in years, and the National Association of Advancement of Colored People, huge civil rights organization, historic in terms of the history of this nation, coming here for the first time. A lot of people putting a footprint in Milwaukee for the first time ever. And so I remember making it my business to go downtown and to see how people that looked like I were integrated into what was happening in the festival, especially local businesses. So I go down. At the time, there was a business nightclub called Swank that was on
I remember Swank.
On Water Street, just south of Wisconsin Avenue, and it was closed. I went to see all of the other places, and I'm going around. I'm like, okay, why are we not, as a community, integrating with this convention, letting people change the dynamics about what is going on here? So I'm really frustrated. I go out in the park, in Pierre Marquette Park. There's a blues band playing out in front, multiracial blues band playing out in front. The convention, one of the main convention hotels, is literally almost kitty corner across the street. I look at the audience. The audience was probably 99% white, which is not a bad thing. But the point is, you have a NAACP convention in the city of Milwaukee, right across the block, and no one is integrating with that in the community. So I made it my business. I did about a 2-mile walk. I just kind of walked in circles all around to see if there was any engagement, of which there was none. So then I come to the Freedom Dinner, and we're in the convention center, and I see Dick Gregory, who had been an influence of mine as a young man, going all the way back to a little kid. So I was so happy I had an opportunity to see him and talk to him. So I'm talking to him, and then an alderman comes up, and I pull him by the coattails, and I said, man, how is it that during this time, because it was during the Summerfest time this festival was had, and I said, how is it possible that Summerfest this year is the most non-inclusive in the history that I've been coming to these things since they become? When I looked at the lineup on the main stage, there was not an urban act on the main stage at all, at the amphitheater. In fact, the only thing that resembled it was Carlos Santana. Yeah. And he had Buddy Guy, blues man out of Chicago, phenomenal talents both. Coming out of Chicago was his opening act. There was not another urban act on main stage. And the interesting thing is there were several country western acts on the main stage, and I'm like, how did we let this happen? During the time this convention is coming, the same weekend the convention is coming. Now there will be those, well, nobody's available, whatever, live. But the interesting thing is at the Essence Festival, which was had the same weekend, opening acts, 3 nights, and it's only 3 nights. We have the largest musical festival in the world. Essence Festival, I think, was in their 10th year or whatever it was. For their headliners, for each of their opening acts, they had Lionel Richie one night, Aretha Franklin another night, and Beyonce another night, all of which probably sold out. Several of those acts, whether it's Lionel Richie or Aretha Franklin, had they been here, the majority of the ticket holders would have been probably non-black people. Yeah. So you can't tell me that they were not available, nor would they not have filled that arena, nor would they have had any issues. Absolutely. But yet there was no effort. Yes. And so that's where we need to be concerned. Yeah, agreed. And so when I'm looking at that, I'm like, how do we let this happen? So when I'm talking to the alderman about that, he's like, man, we're gonna blow this off. We're gonna blow up African World Festival. I said, that's not the point. Yeah. The point is, this is an inclusive festival. At some point, there needs to be inclusion. That should be inclusive of what this community looks like all across the board. Yes. And then obviously, because I wouldn't expect to have Earth, Wind, and Fire playing at German Fest. Yeah, right. That makes sense. So the point is, but if this is Summerfest, it should be something that reflects the Latino community. It should reflect the black community. It should reflect the white community. It should reflect country western music. It should reflect hip hop. The whole across genre. The board. And it should do it in some part. I mean, obviously you can't spread it like it's butter and make it all even. Yeah, right. But it should at least be inclusive in some way. Better than what we have. Absolutely. And so That's something that we have to be involved in to fix. Because if you need the political pressure, then put the political pressure.
Yeah.
If you need to go to the office, because one thing we do bad, we complain and we do nothing.
And then do nothing.
And we come to the bar and we talk about. And then it's time to write a letter. It was time to do something.
Yeah, no one's doing anything. They're going back home.
And that's bad. But that's something that we can do better nationwide. But it's definitely something we can do better here.
And individually, and again, why you're sitting in this seat next to me is because you are one of the ones that do. And I appreciate you so much. And the city, and this is no gas, is better because you're here. And I'm so appreciative.
If I knew how to blush,
it's so real. God knows it, and I know it. And so that's a part of my heart is like, seeing people doing it. At some point, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna grab them up. And actually, since I've been doing Milwaukee Treasures for the last 3 years, I've been like, where's Harrison? I gotta get Harrison. And so I was like, the time is now. And maybe it's because it's time to really put boots to the ground with some of these ideas that you have. And so those of you that,
we have our time and we have God's time.
Exactly, that's
so
true.
Obviously it's God's time.
It's definitely God. There's something going on. I'm telling you, there's a shifting going on. There's a lot of, it's execution time for a lot of things that many of us have been sitting on. I truly believe that the time is now. So in kind of wrapping up, maybe kind of give the folks some parting words, those people who are part of the Milwaukee community, those people who may even see this who aren't a part of the community, why they should come here and be a part of this amazing city, and then make sure you tell the folks how to connect to you and support you.
Well, one of the things I have a nephew that I'm so proud of right now. He's working on his doctorate in psychology at the University of Chicago, in his third year. And one of the things I used to tell him all the time is each one teach two, because we have a lot of catching up to do. And that's the whole point. I mean, we can complain about what has happened, we can complain about what's wrong, but if we're not doing something that we're either engaging or teaching somebody else a better way or a smarter way to do something, then we're part of the problem. So one of the things that I would suggest and hope and pray that everyone does is become engaged. Whatever it is, whatever it is that you are passionate about, be engaged. Don't sit on the sideline and wait for somebody else to do it. Get out here and make it happen, whether it's in entertainment, whether it's in politics, whether it's in religion. I saw a post that a pastor did just yesterday. And it was a post that to me was a long time coming. He caught some flack from it, but it was a conversation that needed to be had. And I'm glad that he put it out there. And at some point, maybe it's what will galvanize people and bring them to the table to talk, because I think we both want the same things, even though we're approaching it in a different way. But we need more engagement like that. We need people to get out of their comfort zone and to get out here and do something. And that includes the clergy.
Yes.
It definitely includes our politicians.
Yes.
And it definitely includes the people at home.
Yes.
Because this is something that's going to take all of us involved in some way, shape, or form to make it better. Milwaukee, I love the city. I'm going to be here in this city, and I think the city has a potential to be an international destination. But I think we have to change how we think about it to make that happen. But it may happen without.
It's right.
Because it's going in that direction. And whether we're included or not is a funny thing. And if you think about that, Milwaukee was the machine shop of the world, years ago. And it's amazing how we've lost that mojo. And for the last 2 years, with all the construction we've seen, billions of dollars worth of investment, we've had to import people into the city to do work, which again shows us taking our eye off the ball, because it would be very similar to being in Florida and them having to import oranges into Florida. How ridiculous would that be? So to think that we have all these new hotels, all this new construction project up, and you have to get people from Illinois, from all over the place to fill the roles, because we're not taking care of our bottom line. And a part of that is us not getting the message out. And whether it's in that type of business and politics, the bottom line is we just need to do a better job. Because we could stem the tide of the nonsense and increase what we're seeing in a positive way.
And how can they connect to you and support the different things you're going to be doing?
Well, let's see.
Harrison Kern on Facebook.
Yeah, that's the easiest way. The easiest way. Harrison D. Kern on Facebook. It's probably the easiest. I do have Instagram accounts and all the other accounts too, but I'm not as active on those because they just require too much time.
It
Just
does.
really
I
do.
agree.
And I'm too busy doing things.
Yeah.
But I am listed, and my contact information is actually listed on Facebook, and I welcome anybody to call with any suggestions or things that can happen, and I look forward to seeing you out and about.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I love you, Milwaukee. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Milwaukee Treasures right here on Saved in the City TV. And until next week, be encouraged. We'll see you soon.